Moscow, May 17, 1967. In a secure government building, a meeting is held of scientists dedicated to collecting comprehensive research on reports of unidentified flying craft. It is the first official Soviet UFO study group. And 6 months later, on November 10th, the government gives its approval for the group's deputy, astronomer Felix Ziegel, to present its findings on Soviet Central Television.
Felix Ziegel asked the public to contact them with sightings. Now, this was an extraordinary development. Previously, little, if anything, had been made public about official interest in this. And here you have somebody going on television, talking about it quite openly and inviting people to send in their sightings. Well, needless to say, there were a lot of sightings that were then reported, but the project itself soon was dogged by controversy and dissent.
Shortly after the television broadcast, the government forced the group to be disbanded, fearful that it might lead to reports surfacing of top-secret Soviet military tests. But Ziegel still managed to collect a huge amount of data, including reports from Russian pilots. He was able to publish some of his findings in a 1968 anthology titled The Inhabited Cosmos.
I met Felix Ziegel in Moscow. He had collected hundreds of UFO cases. He said that these flying objects were seen all over the Soviet Union. Some of them were small, others large and spherical. Their technology must be extraterrestrial because they reach an incredible speed that no human would survive.
While publicly, the Soviet government denounced the research of Felix Ziegel, they did not stop him from continuing his work and even reviewed his findings. But why? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest that the government may have been aware that there really was an alien presence in their skies. And they used Ziegel and other UFO researchers as a way to secretly monitor this activity.
A number of records have surfaced from the Soviet Air Force and the KGB, showing that particularly in the 50s, 60s and 70s, they took the UFO subject very, very seriously.
Soviet scientists had to come up with incredible ways with which to share their knowledge with their colleagues in the Western world. So they essentially hid their messages in code, in letters, in different types of correspondence. Why would anyone risk going to jail by coding messages to people and scientists outside the Iron Curtain if you weren't compelled enough that what you're writing about is the truth?
Throughout the 1960s and most of the 70s, the Soviet government's interest in UFOs remained unofficial. But that changed after September 20th, 1977, when numerous residents of Petrozavodsk reported seeing a glowing object floating in the sky above for over 5 minutes, showering the city with rays of light. A copy remains of a lost photograph that was taken of the object. And astonishingly, similar UFOs were reported all across Russia and Eastern Europe within a 4-hour window. On the heels of this mass sighting, the Soviet Union established the Russian Academy of Sciences UFO Commission. In 1984, they appointed Major General Pavel Popovich, the 8th man ever to reach space, to head up this research team.
Pavel Popovich brought forth a lot of the UFO information himself, and he was able to obtain the KGB UFO files, 124 pages in 1992. He said that he knew of the existence of 3 underwater bases where the extraterrestrials exist and operate. This is a man whom we should listen to.
He had 2 UFO sightings himself, a very significant one in 1978 when he was flying back from the United States to Russia. Out his window, he saw an absolutely enormous, football field size or larger, triangular craft that was moving at a really good clip. I mean, easily overtook the commercial airliner that he was in. He wasn't the only one on his plane to see this, by the way. He talked to a lot of the other people, many of whom were academicians coming back from a conference, many of whom saw this.
Did Major General Pavel Popovich really witness firsthand an extraterrestrial spacecraft? And might he also have found evidence in secret KGB files of underwater alien bases? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest even more profound evidence can be found in a small mountain town in eastern Russia, the remains of a crashed UFO. Might the object that crashed at Downogorsk and was witnessed by hundreds of people really have been an alien craft? Could the physical evidence left behind provide undeniable proof that otherworldly beings are visiting planet Earth and have been for thousands of years? One of the most decorated test pilots in Russian history is a woman named Marina Popovich, the wife of astronaut Pavel Popovich. Marina set over 100 records during her career in the Soviet Air Force, which includes being the first woman to break the sound barrier. Like her husband, she too reported on extraterrestrial encounters. In 2003, Marina published a book disclosing her first-hand experiences with UFOs. In it, she also referenced thousands of similar UFO sightings by other Soviet military and civilian pilots. She told their stories at speaking engagements all over the world, like the story of a fighter pilot who was asked to fire upon an unidentified disc-shaped craft.
Вот. И появляется огромная тарелка. Ему надо стрелять, он говорит, ну, стрелять я уже по ней не буду, потому что она ничего не делает, она просто идет в лоб, пашет. Он говорит, что-то меня тоже посылали на перехват. Так она меня со мной как зайчик, как кошки-мышки играла.
Marina Popovich is one of the most famous aviators in history. She was in a good position to know what she knew. She was a very well-connected individual. She talked about something like 3,000 UFO cases that had occurred in the Soviet Union over the years, which, considering the fact that we knew next to nothing about the history of Soviet UFOs before that, was very significant.
There is particular interest in sightings from pilots. Pilots are able, for example, to judge distances, speeds, heights in a way that maybe the average person can't. And Marina Popovich has made a particular effort to collate all these pilot stories.
What's particularly notable about Marina Popovich's comments on the UFO subject is that she stated that sources have informed her that the Soviets have in their possession no less than the remains of 5 crashed and recovered UFOs.
Did both Marina and Pavel Popovich, along with scores of other respected Soviet pilots, really encounter alien crafts? And if so, might there be even more sightings recorded by the Russian authorities than have not yet been disclosed to the public? Downogorsk, Russia, January 29th, 1986. Just before 8 p.m. in this small mining town in eastern Russia, hundreds of people see a red glowing sphere moving slowly through the sky above a nearby mountain. It appeared to slow down before crashing into the hillside. Many reported seeing a fiery blaze from the site for as much as an hour after it went down.
The sphere flies into the Izveskova Mountains and burns up. There is an explosion, and people want to find out what happened, because I've read eyewitness accounts. Incredible.
Because of the huge number of eyewitnesses, the crash became known as the Russian Roswell. And like at Roswell, physical evidence was recovered from the site proving that a crash of some kind did, in fact, occur.
Some local people and researchers managed to get to the site. They find very interesting artifacts, remains.
While officials dismissed the event as a possible meteor crash, microscopic analysis of the debris yielded unusual results. The samples contained a complex system of woven metallic fibers, and the atomic structure of the metal itself appeared to change when exposed to heat.
When they melted the metal and put it through a spectrum analysis, the gold and silver and other metals were gone. And instead, there was titanium and molybdenum there. And so you have here some kind of metals which apparently are mutating into other metals, which was very, very unusual.
I think it's part of some kind of machinery, nanotechnology machinery. It wasn't made on planet Earth.
It was later studied by a number of Soviet scientific institutions, and some of them said that technology like this does not exist on Earth today.
Subsequent to the Dalnogorsk crash, there have been a number of sightings in exactly the same area. Some people have even seen an object apparently land on the hillside where the first crash took place.
Might the object that crashed at Dalnogorsk and was witnessed by hundreds of people really have been an alien craft? Could the physical evidence left behind provide undeniable proof that otherworldly beings are visiting planet Earth and have been for thousands of years? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and believe that Russians have had contact with aliens not just here on Earth, but even in space. Could strange encounters reported by Russian cosmonauts, as well as military pilots, be connected to the artifacts discovered in the Ural Mountains and the Dalnogorsk crash site?